myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. It feels alright.
Hi, welcome along to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. A slightly different guest today. You know, I do like to mix it up on here, and I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Andrew Drury, journalist, filmmaker, and author, as he describes himself on Twitter. We have a couple of mutual friends, and a big shout out to Nick and Katie for sorting this out. Morning, Andrew. How are you?
Good morning, mate. And I correct you, I'm builder formerly. So journalist, con artist journalist and con artist filmmaker. I seem to have fallen into roles, but builder number one.
Well, that's good stuff, mate. Building, excellent. We'll touch on that in a little bit. Just give us an indication of where you grew up and you know where you're from, mate. I can hear the Cockney accent there.
I'm born and bred Aldershot. So a lot of people get confused with Aldershot and London. So I'm born and bred in an army town. So yeah, that's where I come from. Council estate, come from nothing, and don't know why I am where I am. A bit confused, to be honest.
Yeah, well, that's you know, it's a bit like my lifestyle, really. You know, I grew up in that kind of way, not knowing what I wanted to do, and just gone from job to job, thinking, you know, different things, you know, and experiencing different parts of life. So you've had a very interesting life, and I am going to talk a little bit about your book in due course. This one, which I've read, Trip Hazard. And available on Amazon and all good bookshops, and we'll come to that. But what made you want to get into journalism and get away from building, mate?
I still do the building, still got a building company. It's just basically I'm fucking nosy. Right. I'm just really nosy. I mean, I think when you grow up, you're supposed to set down this line that you follow. You have your holidays once a year, have your family, have your kids, and then you snuff it. Now that wasn't good enough for me. If I watched a documentary, I wanted to be in it. I wanted to see it. I wanted to feel it. So I was inquisitive and nosy, just really nosy person, nosy from a kid. And I wanted to be somebody. So it all started, I think, because my brother died when I was really young of leukemia. And he never had an experience of life, sort of 11 years of age. And he didn't really make his mark because he had no choice. And from then, I suppose a lot of me's been living a part of his life through me. So that's where it changed. And one trip. Was supposed to be just a holiday, and that kind of put me on the path of this from this crazy journey I've had, from being shot at and taken hostage and whatever has come since. It's been a crazy life.
I mean, when you were at school, I mean, I wrote to the Cray twins as a youngster. That was the first thing that I did, and they wrote back, and I ended up going through that journey of you know, visiting the Crays in prison, visiting Ronnie in Broadmoor for 5 years, visiting Ronnie and Reggie in numerous places. I visited Reggie in 10 prisons over the course of time. I met all of the firm members, and have gone on to make books and documentaries myself. So for me, I wrote to those people, and I guess it's that sense of adventure that you've got, because, you know, I look at I used to look at the Queen, for example, God bless her, when she was alive, and think, well, if I wanted to contact the Queen, I'd just write to her. And I guess you've got that same kind of, you know.
That's how the Ku Klux Klan happened.
Go on, tell us about that then.
I was listening to this Irish radio show at night, and I heard this guy called Reverend Travis Pearson from the KKK. And I thought, I've heard so much about him, I want to experience it. So I started by emailing him, just saying, look, mate, normal bloke from the UK, fancy come and see you. Didn't hear nothing. I thought, I'm not going to use Ku Klux Klan, but I won't give it up. And then I think 2 or 3 months later passed, and he wrote back and said, come and meet us. A bit shocked, didn't think it was real, but that's kind of me. I thought, well, that's it. Seems like a good idea. I'll go and meet this guy. And it turned out a real crazy trip. It actually started with a guy from Deliverance. You remember the Banjo Boy?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Billy Redden. I started writing to him as well because I fancied seeing. I wanted to know whether Billy Redden really played that banjo as a little boy and why they chose this kind of deformed lad. And then he told me his story. We got the States and we hunted him down. I didn't ever think the Ku Klux Klan would meet us. I thought, well, it's just a load of old bollocks, but I'll give it a go anyway. So we met Billy Redden, who stunk of piss and was pushing trolleys in Walmart, which was quite sad. And he was slow and backward and never played the banjo. So if you want to know about Deliverance, the boy was picked because he had mumps. But so, and he was the pissiest smelling man in the Walmart car park. But then, as we continued ringing this Reverend Travis Pierce, funny calling himself a reverend, that kind of freaked me out a little bit as well. And he answered the phone a couple of times, but he was, didn't believe it was going to happen still. So we went deep south, was up near Mississippi, and was staying in a hotel. And I rang him 2 or 3 times, didn't answer his call. I thought, fuck, we're so I swore then. Are you okay to swear on here? Because I have a tendency of swearing sometimes. And I didn't think this was going to happen, but it did the second day we called him and said, do you fancy coming and seeing us? Can we meet up? Can we hook up for a coffee? We didn't know how it would go. And he said, I'll send my bodyguard down for you. And we waited in a car park outside a hotel. Strange experience. And didn't know who was going to turn up. We didn't know it would be him himself or somebody else. But it was waiting in a car park, surrounded, obviously, your deep cell, surrounded by black guys, which is cool. But we were a bit nervous. It was only about 5 minutes before we arrived. We realised we're meeting the Ku Klux Klan in a hotel served by full of black guys, the nice guys that we made friends with the night before. How are they going to look at us when we come back? And this old bashed up wagon turned up with this giant of a man turned up, fully in Ku Klux Klan outfit. It was a bit embarrassing. And we followed him for about 5-6 miles up a dirt trap, some shingled road. And we saw this strange creature from a window in a 5-bedroom house looking down upon us. And that was a reverend, looking like a ghostly figure. And that was when our day started, a strange 2 days, by this guy that looked like he was inbred when he knocked the door. He had about 1 tooth in his head. And I wasn't too sure whether his daughter was his wife or his wife was his daughter. It was a strange situation in there. And this guy had ushered into his office. And he looked like a strange old man, someone you think was his granddad, not this kind of powerful Ku Klux Klan. We sat in his office, went into his middle drawer of his desk and banged this gun out and said, "This is for any silly business." So basically I said, "What silly business?" He said, "If you ask me questions I'm not happy with, I'll either shoot you or I'll answer them." So I hoped he wasn't going to shoot us, but he had this monster of a guy behind him in Ku Klux Klan uniform that was staring upon us, and he was pissed, clearly pissed. But anyway, the day went on. He told us all about the silly shit the Ku Klux Klan get up to. He was proud of the fact is that he had high-ranking police officers, parliamentary people, all in part of his clan. So it went quite well. He showed us the burning cross, corrected us that it wasn't a burning cross, apparently. They light the cross, and it's a religious thing, load of old bollocks. And then we had our pictures taken by the cross, and I think he'd had enough of us. So he sent his bodyguard to take us to another Ku Klux Klan that they were fighting with. So they weren't worried about any of the black guys or any other races. They're more worried about the more powerful Ku Klux Klan down the road. So we went with this guy who wanted to go and stone their Ku Klux Klan headquarters. So we jumped in his car. They never did it. But we spent a few hours with this pissed up bloke digging up red India arrows. Why we did that, I don't know. It's bizarre. And then we went and saw the Reverend, and he sat down and sold us some merchandise, which is also bizarre. A Ku Klux Klan belt, but bought one. Felt a bit guilty about it, actually, but did buy one anyway. And then we're about to part and say goodbye, and he stopped me, and this is this powerful guy, and he said, "Look, I really want to ask you something, Andrew." And I said, "What's that?" He said, "What's going on in Downton Abbey at the moment? I'm a little bit behind." For fucking hell. Ku Klux Klan leader, favourite show, Downton Abbey. But the story, I mean, we left, and it was, I mean, I could go on ages talking about it, but I got home, and the Sun newspaper said they'd pay me a lot of money to go back and film and take part in a hooded ceremony. And I thought, well, I won't put hood on because I'm not a racist, but I would go and take part because he invited me. But I rang Reverend, and he said, if I come back, he's going to shoot me. And if he ever sees me again, he's going to kill me. And I haven't been back there, but I am going to go back in the next couple of years to see if he does shoot me. I'm sure he won't. That's the plan.
Amazing story, that. Amazing story.
Yeah, I don't tell it very well because it's come back. But yeah, that's how it kind of went. It was a bit deeper than that. We had a few arguments, and he told us a load of shit and how the word Ku Klux Klan was made from the cocking of a kind of rifle, made a Ku Klux Klan sound. So it was informative, but he bloke's nuts, completely nuts. Behind his cross, he's got a little kind of bit of a shrine downstairs because he's a religious guy. And behind his cross and his altar, he's got an armory. That kind of not what you expect in a little church. But that was one kind of just being a bit nosy.
Was that your first? Adventure then, if you like,
No.
in that respect?
No, my first adventure was we wanted to go to Afghanistan, myself and my cousin, but they had these earthquakes. This is going back when I was about, I suppose, 28, 29. So we went to Uganda, and I'm not really an animal-y person, but we went up to the gorillas and travel through Uganda. It was an opportunity to go into what was Zaire, which is Congo Republic now, and they're at war, at civil war. And we thought it'd be a good idea just to walk over illegally across the border through the mountains. I didn't give a shit about the gorillas. I know that sounds really bad, but it's not my cup of tea. They're beautiful, and they're big, hairy things, and I'm not really a naturist. I wouldn't want anything bad to happen to them, but I didn't really give a shit about them. You had all these kind of eco warriors of them day, students who wanted to have this emotional time with these gorillas and crying whilst at that time I cleared off into Zaire. But that was my first life threat. Got into Zaire, went into our first village, and a man thought I was stealing his bananas and were going to cut me up with his machete kind of style knife. And he was chasing us through the jungle until we got out and got clear enough. And that gave me this kind of excitement and adrenaline. And I looked for it again after that trip, which has taken me to front lines and everything else that's come since.
Yeah, amazing story. The one that really caught the nation's interest, and the one which I remember seeing you for the first time and thinking, "Wow, that's fascinating," and I followed it from start to finish, was your Shamima Begum.
Look how I'm pouting.
That's a very good pout. Very good pout. Now look. This one was always going to split opinions, and I do like a satirical look at the news on this channel called News of the World with a panelist guest, and it definitely split our guests. It's an awkward one, isn't it? And anyone, of course, who doesn't know the story is that she went off as a schoolgirl and followed her dream. Who knows? Was she somebody who just decided, oh, I've had enough of England and I'm off, and she ends up where she ends up. But tell us your views. How did you get involved with this story? Because it's a fascinating story.
Someone's been following me in a documentary for the past 5 years, going to war zones. It's called Danger Zone. It's going to be out on Disney Plus Stars probably early next year. We're going to Sundance Festival, and then it'll get released in cinemas. But yeah, I kind of had a day off, and I heard from journalist friends that no, she wouldn't meet anybody. So these Oxbridge, Cambridge top line journalists were told to clear off by her. She wasn't giving interviews. I thought I'll give her a go. Good old council lad. Know that she comes from Bethnal Green. I'll see if I can get in there. Excuse me. I was expecting to get told to clear off. But when I met her, she did tell me to clear off. But you know what it's like coming from a councillor. You don't accept that shit, do you? I wanted to talk to her. I wasn't going to accept. She had abandoned our country. I was going to give her a piece of my mind. I wanted to tell her at that point. I never did. I was in a Netflix documentary called Dark Tourist, and I had a plan before I went in there. And I had the video downloaded on an iPad, and I showed her my form of journalism, what I do. And it was in an orphanage. And I kind of cry quite a lot since I get older. If I get upset, I don't know why. The tears have come since the 50s. So I showed this emotion, and she kind of was touched by it, I thought. So we spoke, and she said, I'll give you an interview. And then that was my first meeting with her. We talked shit. I didn't give her the spill about heads in the bins and nothing like that, because I thought I was going too heavy. I'm going to get told to fuck off like everybody else has done meeting her. And I wanted to know more about her. So I asked a stupid question like, what's your favorite TV person, program, sort of teenagey questions, because that's where I saw her. And the conversation went all right. She told me a few things. She told me that she didn't speak to her dad. And I think she blamed a lot of what happened to her on her father at that point. She was never, at that point, she was apologetic to what she had done. She felt guilty. So I thought fair play, and I didn't expect to see her again. And as I was about to leave, I think you might have seen the photographs, and I got a lot of abuse from it. I asked to shake her hand as I left, and she said, "Can I have a cuddle?" the guilt came in straight away because I would say my politics are probably more right than left. And I did. I took myself out of myself then, and I got a daughter her age, and kind of the emotions of the situation took over, and I gave her a hug, and it was all over the place, and I didn't think nothing of it at that time, as you can see the picture there. So the hug took place, and although I regretted it, at that point, I thought she was a victim. I thought she'd been trafficked. I never expected to ever go and see her again, because why would you? I thought I'd had the meeting. It was good for the documentary. She was a Western terrorist. We met. That's the first Western terrorist I've met. So come home, put my article in the mail, and sent it out there. I got a few death threats, which I quite enjoyed, to be honest. I mean, it's not bad getting a death threat. Some guy said, if you come to Luton, I'm going to kill you. I mean, I've been part of this documentary, been shot at by ISIS, threatened to be taken hostage, and some twat with a Superman avatar was going to kill me. I didn't really take it too seriously. I think I just told him to fuck off, because there's a load of old bollocks, the keyboard warriors. But I kind of understood what it'd be like to be on the left side of politics, because I was pumping about, and I would have been angry at my comments, because I was basically sticking up for her, because I thought she had been trafficked. I thought like these sex trafficked girls had been kind of Telford kind of was ringing in my ears. Maybe she was a victim, and I thought she was a victim at that point. I went on to Good Morning Britain, as you know, told my story, and coming out, I was contacted by producers and said, would I go back? Because they'd been trying to they'd been all the way out there, Good Morning Britain, and she'd told them where to go. And they were desperate to do this live interview. So I'd suddenly become a producer then. Quite like that idea, ITV producer. So I went back. I didn't want to, and I promised them that I could get her. I didn't know I would. I just fancied a free trip. And, you know, ITV put you in the Ratana in Iraq, and it seemed quite nice to me. I felt a bit of a freebie. I normally have to pay for myself. And we went up there, and Shamima, and what happened was the ITV crew out of me. And this is the stages and the layers that Shamima puts upon you. I went that time, and she'd gone from victim to diva in one trip. Day one, she said she wasn't going to do it. I was there for 2 days. She was in a shopping centre. They got little not shopping, like these buildings where they all go shopping. They can buy clothes, food. They live quite well, actually, which did piss me off, because I spent a lot of time in refugee camps where the ISIS had ruined people's homes and were living in poverty anyway. So she's up there shopping with her mates, and she's got a group of these teenage mates. I went and found her and convinced her mate to do the interview. I don't think she needed convincing, Steve. I think she loves the TV by now. Anyway, she said she'd do it and she'd go live. And this was groundbreaking. No one would ever get a live interview in a prison camp. So I was quite pleased with myself. But I'd actually achieved it. It was a massive achievement. So we went up there the next day. The interview went out. Susanna Reid ripped one into her. But fair play to Shamima. She seemed to, rebuke all these questions. She seemed to do all right. Richard Madeley, who's pretty much like Alan Partridge, told her to stay there. I'm coming to the adverts now and stay there. And Shamima went. She ran away. She had a tantrum. Fuck off tantrum. And I dragged her out of her tent and said, you're going to finish this fucking interview. It's embarrassing for me. So at that time, I did see another Shamima that I didn't like. This drama queen. I still thought she was a victim. I still was punting that. She's still a trafficked girl, young girl, but immature. So she come back and did the interview. My fixer said, give her your phone number, because she's allowed a call a week. And that'll, help you if you wanted to do it again. So I gave her my phone. Didn't think nothing of it. I thought, she ain't going to ring me. Nothing's going to happen with this. But still, then I quite liked her. I just thought this could be a victim. We could be hanging this girl out to dry. We could be. She might have been online, this online Wahhabism. She might have been following that from her mosque, because we all know it goes on in some mosques. And online, it might have happened. So at that point, I thought she was a victim. She was still kind of playing that victim, apologetic victim this time. So the apology is slanted off and the victim was coming in, because at that point, I think she kind of saw that might be her best direction, the victim. And I bought into it, to be fair. And we went home, and I got BAFTA nominated. how the fuck that happened from Builder to BAFTA. Yeah, how the fuck does that happen? I feel like a bit like the Sex Pistols when they ever say, you know, they had that comment, have you ever been had?
Yeah.
I must have had somebody. So that was strange going to the BAFTAs as well. I felt a bit out of place there with all these lovies and other people that I should be mixing with. But
It's interesting you say, just rewind a little bit. But Shamima Begum, it's interesting because I saw that journey and I watched it as a viewer and watched what you were doing. And I thought that's an amazing trip. And you know, tip me hat off to you as somebody who, you know, had got the opportunity to do that. And honestly, the change in her attitude from one interview to the other was tragic. And I also noticed the way she dressed. Had changed. She was westernized, and again, I thought, is this girl just so clued up on you know, PR and is this really a charm offensive to get back in the UK? Because my opinion has always been, you know, I don't think she should be allowed back in the UK.
Well, I'll come to that because my opinion changed as the story goes on, because this is only into the second visit of meeting her. You know, the meetings continued after that. I did over a year. In contact with her, meeting her. She, funny enough, in the Sky did a documentary on her before that, and she had a Union Jack mug. You can't buy Union Jack mugs at down their little shop. So someone's given her that. You can guess, maybe production staff. She's got a knitted Union Jack pillow in the background. And when I first met her, do you know that hug? When that photograph was taken of the hug, the first picture, she had a bra strap showing, and she still had this good Muslim thought. And she said, can you delete that picture? I've got a bra strap showing. So I had to then have the photograph taken again with the bra strap kind of moved and closed up. So it's clear. But if you look in the Good Morning Britain interview, she's got a breasts out, a bra strap's over here and a bra strap's there. So she's lost that little bit. So there's been a change in her. And when I first met her, she wouldn't take her mask off. But by the time we got to the GMB interview, everything was out. She's tight, skinny jeans, vest top, and nothing hidden. You know, no coverage of the head. So that she had changed. And you what got to realise, this interview that me and you are having now, beyond out there, she'll see this. She follows me in what I do because I've just given some shit to her, and I had a text from her recently, but we move on from that. I'll tell you that at the end because it is the end. So from that interview, we come back, and after I've gone out, the texts start coming rapidly, real rapid texts from the camp. She's bored. She's got hold of. They've got these phones in the camp sneaked in. I don't know how they've got them, but they have. And I expected one phone call at the best, but not continuation of texts. So it started with a call word, hi, Andrew, to know she was there. And then she started just normal stuff. How are you? Trying to make it. And then it got on to something that really did change my opinion about her. And from that, it went from pity for me to turn into dislike in one text. I asked her, because she showed me a picture with a GMB of her babies, because nobody believes that she had kids. A conspiracy theory, it was all made up. She did have 3 babies that died. And they all died, in my mind, not into anybody else suspiciously. They all died of starvation of oxygen. I believe, one, there might be a defect. One child was about nearly a year old, and one died in birth. All starvation of oxygen. I leave it there for people's opinions. But when I saw the photograph, like I told you, I cry in the 50s. I was genuinely upset. These kids are innocent. And I had a tear in my eye when I saw the picture. I thought, these poor kids have died. They died. And they were like lovely pictures, chopped on the face, playing. So when I come back, it played on my mind, going back to my brother and things like that, you know. And it's kind of, I thought I could send it out there. I said, I was really sad, Shamima, to see the picture of your kids. Her response to me back was, don't worry about that. I'm over that part of my life. I'm not sad anymore. One kid died a year and a half before that picture. Can you ever can be over that part of your life? She seems to close off books quite easily, this girl. And from that point onwards, it turned from sorrow to dislike on one email. And then the emails went on. She'd email me about people trying to kill her. The Terror twins, 2 English girls in there, are trying to kill Western girls inside the camp. They're in the bad part of the camp. The camp split into 2. the ones that can't be de-radicalized are trouble. And there's quite a few Brits up there come down and try and kill people, burn tents and burn people in the tents. So that went on. And then in between then, my next visit happened, and that was with Sky. Sky TV asked if I'd taken back, and I thought, for fuck's sake, not again. This woman's doing my head in. But I went and I took Sky because I knew I had her. And we did the interview, and I was learning more and more and more about this girl. I was kind of understanding her a little bit more. And part of the deal with Sky was I would interview her for 20 minutes and I could sell it. And GMB, I give it to GB News. GB ran the interview. And at that point, she changed again. So my interview to her, so Sky did their shitty one with the mask, and they didn't tell her to take the mask off. How unprofessional. I didn't help them with it. I didn't say, oh, if you ask her to take a mask off, she wouldn't. I thought, well, if you're stupid enough to not to do that, it's your job. So when I interviewed, I said, take your mask off, Shamima. I think Sky a bit gutted about that because they had this masked interview, and I've got one sitting down that GB News got hold of. And at that point, she basically, the first meeting with her, going back to that, and her husband, she said her husband, she loved him. And then she hated him. This interviewer goes, what do you think of your husband now? Because he's been out there talking about you. She said, I hate him. He abused me. And I thought, the first interview I had, you loved him, and he was a loving husband. 6 months later, he's mentally and physically abused you. That's another big change. So you're actually changing your opinion about anything, everything and anything within your life. So the interview went on, and I ended up at that interview really disliking her. I come back and still carried on the same old spiel with GB News. She's a victim. But in my head, I knew she wasn't. And I was lying pretty much to TV and camera because I knew that she'd be watching, and I hadn't finished with her. So if I said at that point, I've changed my mind about her, I would never have been able to go back for the final visit, which saw me being banned out of Syria. I went on my own this time with no broadcaster for my final visit. I'd had loads of emails, and then she'd asking me to buy clothes for her from Primark from these emails. So I was like, she told me, this is a girl that was protecting herself from bra size, but bra, don't do this. She sent me an email saying, my bra size is this, my pant size is this. And this is a girl that, that was a Muslim, a good Muslim. So from going from protecting her bra size, she's asking me to go Primark and buy her some clothes, which I did. And one of the telling emails before his final visit was Guantanamo Bay Diaries. She asked me for the book. And what that is that's a guy that made himself a self-victim. He was in Guantanamo Bay for 14 years and without being charged. So she was actually giving herself this persona of a victim through a book. So she wanted to, and I think she wanted that book to get tips on becoming more of a victim. I never took it to her on purpose. And then another book about refugees. So she was seeing herself as a refugee that had been trafficked, and she was a victim. So from going from being sorry, she changed herself within a few months. And my final visit with her, she ended up having a tantrum with me. We interviewed, and the interview was shit, absolute shit. She was talking crap. She basically didn't really want to talk and give me any information. So I ended up interviewing the American Shamima called Hoda. She was far more interesting. Also said she was a victim. So it wasn't a great interview, but second day, I thought I'd go back. I got 2 days here, but I'm going to wrap this up. I knew I'd come to an end with her. She kept on giving me hugs all through the day, and I didn't want to be hugging this woman anymore. Second day, we interviewed a Trinidadian girl who was the niece of Jack Walker, the FA. This is the first time I've told it to anybody. Okay. Jack Walker, you know Jack Walker is, don't you?
Was he the man who owned Blackburn Rovers?
No, Jack Walker. No, not Jack. No, yeah, it was Jack. No, Jack, not that Jack. Jack Walker is the black Trinidadian FA that robbed all the money from the FA.
Got you, mate. Yes, I know exactly who you mean now. Yeah, I've got you.
And it was Jack Warner, wasn't it? Or Warner. Jack Warner. And my eyes lightened up because a journalist side that come into me go, Jesus Christ, it's FA prisoner. And this girl was telling me the story about her uncle being the FA chief and promising all these young Trinidadians of being Super World Cup footballers. So he's already on the fiddle with kids in Trinidad. I was enjoying this story. And then Oh, you well done. You found it. Him. That's him.
It's
Great.
Gordon Brown.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. Yeah. No, yeah. So she was telling us this great story about this guy, and I was loving it. But the story went on, and she'd been with the bigwigs in ISIS, so she was married to the top guys, not Shamima's little guy. And she was spilling how she hated them all. And I love this. One day I'll sell her story. But anyway, Shamima had a tantrum. You know, like kids, if you're not giving them attention, suddenly are sick or ill. So she's, I'm feeling sick, and ran off. So she was having a tantrum that wasn't talking about her, and the attention wasn't on her. And I went out and spoke to her, and she said, I'm just feeling ill. And I thought at that point, I'll just fuck off. I had enough of you. You're really doing my head, and I ain't coming back. And I can remember leaving her. She gave me a hug, but it was not the hug that had been previously. And I'd made my mind up. I'm going to have to be honest. I now know you, Shamima. I know what you're all about. So Journey, I sat in my hotel room and I thought, do I sell her out? Do I not sell her out? Do I do my true opinion or just go home and leave it? But at that point, we'd had a story sold to the Mail anyway. The Mail story was Shamima's frightened of a trial, which she is. She's shitting herself because she'll go to trial and she could do 20 years. I don't know if you, Steve, have you ever sold a newspaper story to the papers and they've put a different story in there?
Yeah. Again, that comes down to trust, doesn't it? It's when I had my involvement with the craze, that was probably me at my learning curve stage. And a couple of times I gave stories to journalists. I wasn't getting paid as a young man, and ultimately, yeah, they misquoted me. But I'm glad to say, moving forward, I've learned my lesson. But it's a big lesson to learn.
Well, I didn't until up recently. I gave a story, said that Shamima was frightened of going to trial there, which she is. But then the headlines were Shamima Begum faces execution and she fears it. Well, the SDF, which is Syrian Defence Forces, became my mates over all the journeys because they love me because I'm normal. I'm not like an Oxford journalist. I say fuck a lot and I'm a normal bloke. And people like normal blokes. That's the reason why you're so popular because probably you've got a shit background like me. You know, and you've worked hard and you're passionate. Because if you're a journalist, you're paid to do that. If you're not a journalist, you're doing it because you've got passion. So they love that. So the Mail put in the story, it stopped. The SDF said, if you come here, they're going to arrest me. And I'm banned from Kurdistan, Syria. So that fucked me off really big time. Anyway, so I moaned it. And then Shamima texted me that day. She got the story. So she's had a right go at me. She said to me, I can't believe that you've sold a story. I don't care about what story it is. It's who you sold it to. And she had a go at me. So I texted her back and said, you sold my country that I love. You have no right to say anything who I sell a story to because you sold yourself out. And that was the last message I sent Shamima. And since then, the truth is, Shamima, she's a manipulative, playing everybody. She absolutely plays everybody. And these journalists, they seem to be in the palm of her hand. So an honest guy, I did fall for it first, but it didn't take long to realize this girl, I don't think she's dangerous. I just don't think she's very nice. How it happened for her, because now I know. There was a girl, because she told me, a girl called Shamima Begum, not Shamina, Shamima. She was another girl. There was 4 girls. The press say there was only 3. There was 4. The first one went early and arranged for Shamina to go. So there was no indoctrinating. There was no mosques. Shamina wanted it. She looked for it. She wanted to be a somebody. She thought this girl that was a nobody in school, she was an insignificant person. At school, she was a good girl. No one really cared about her. So she'd planned this. She knew what she wanted to do. She sought to go to Raqqa or Baghouz. She wanted to be a husband. No one trafficked her. She looked for it. And Shamina arranged her trip. And also, have you heard the Canadian stuff about the spies?
No, I haven't heard that, no.
Story came out recently about Shamima was trafficked by these Canadian spies and she must be innocent. It was a load of old bollocks. The BBC had got a documentary, which I think I royally fucked up. Guy called Josh Barker's got this documentary about his year with Shamima. And he hates the fact is I spent one because the BBC will do a left-wing kind of documentary about her being a victim. and how, and it will be false because they released this Canadian story to promote their documentary. Shamima hadn't got a clue who sent her over there. So anybody listening to this and you read that story about spies on the border, let me tell you, there's a spy on every border you go across. And there'll be, and I hope there is, I hope the British intelligence have spies on borders I've crossed, because if they're not, I'll be worried. So that whole story was released for the press simply for this documentary that will be pro Shamima. There's nothing to be pro about Shamima, believe me. I think that she should come back, because those poor Syrians that having to look after her every day, her life's at risk, that she should be coming back to our prison here and doing life. And we're paying for her anyway. Why should we pay for her? Well, firstly, we exported her to a country of nice Kurdistan people that are now having to guard her and look after her. It's not their problem, it's ours. She should be banged up here and maybe into solitary in a good Guantanamo Bay kind of style prison, because she deserves it. She's a traitor to our country, and believe me, Steve, she has no remorse. The remorse that she shows is false. Do not believe it. It's false remorse. And all these lefty Lent-leaders are out there saying that bring her back. She's a poor victim. I spent a year with her. If she was a victim, I'm a normal bloke. I would tell you she's a victim. She isn't.
Do you think she's a bit of a convenient dead cat story? And what I mean by that is that whenever there's something that the government want us to not notice what's going on, they utilize their contacts in the media. Oh, we'll bring the Shamima Begum story back up, and that becomes front page news because it's something which the public are interested in. And I watch the media probably like you, with you shake your head and you go, oh, I know what they're up to here. And they could use her. I mean, they do that with villains as well. They did it with the Crays, Reggie Cray, front page news, where something's going on in Parliament. Charles Salvador, who I visit to this day, is another one who is conveniently put all over the front pages. Do you get where I'm coming from, Andrew?
Yeah, because I think it is, because it's a deflection, isn't it? I mean, this interview, I mean, you've got quite a large forum. So if this is pumped around at the right places, this will be out in the news tomorrow. Every time I mention Shamima or I go on, I could ring up a channel today and I could be doing a TV interview about Shamima now. That's and you're right, it deflects everything. They do use it. I mean, your Salvador, I know. He's had a few names, hasn't he? And
yes, Ahmed was one of them.
My mate in the office, who works for me, a guy who works for me, is best mates with the lookalike. He's got a lookalike. Is it Terry?
Terry, yeah. He's a good guy. I've met him. I met him at Charlie's last wedding. I have to keep up with the weddings he's had.
Didn't he dance with him at the wedding? Didn't dance for the wedding or something? And I think they've fallen out now.
He danced with Paula, who's sadly no longer with us. She passed away. About 6 months after the wedding, she passed away. But he danced with the bride at the wedding. Yeah.
So we got a connection there, and the Crays as well. The Crays haven't gone now, are they? I mean, they're, like you said, they're clickbait.
It's incredible.
It's a major selling film, isn't it? It is.
I mean, I have that Google thing set up on Gmail where essentially you get the notifications of certain things, and I have the Crays. And never a day goes by, Andrew, when the Crays aren't in the news. And it's either it can be the most obscure thing, like woman names dogs after Ronnie and Reggie, or man gets tattoo of the Crays, or whatever. But it can be something as bizarre as that. And I've got an interest. I've had an interest since I was a kid. So and I'm sure Shamima will be used in the same way. I'm going to ask a question back from Nick and Katie, because they were kind enough to set the interview up, and they said, when you were in Syria, were you ever paranoid? Were you ever concerned for your safety when you were there? Because that's the thing that goes into your mind when you go to these places.
Listen, one of the greatest stories I tell is when I was on the front line. Well, yeah, cool. I mean, no, I don't. I've been on so many front lines and been into danger zones. I mean, I was in Raqqa, and in Baghuz, and in Mosul, or Mosul, if you want to produce it here. So I've lost that fear. I really have. I don't think about it. You are at risk. Whatever I do, I'm at risk. I'm at risk for a terrorist attack. And the higher profile I've become, because I've now got a profile which I never had before, that I'm worth taking hostage now. But I tell a story about fear, and it's one of my favourite stories. I like telling people stories, and you do. I think we're very similar by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
We get involved in things because we're interested. I'm interested. And like being I don't want to be the Shamima man, and I'm sure you don't want to be the Cray man.
No.
Because there's more to you about that, or the Newcastle man. Well, I have a story that I like to tell because it's important to me, because this is what I'm about or what it's about. I went during the conflict of ISIS were heavy into Iraq at the time, going back about 7-8 years ago, when they had strongholds. They held Mosul, they held Kirkuk, and the British were battling and the Americans were battling. And so I wanted to go and see some action. It's a strange thing to say, but I wanted to experience what it's like to be on the front line. British military, I didn't have a press card like I have now, so I had to do it kind of freelance. So I had to jump in. I couldn't get any visas to get in into where I wanted to go, which was Kirkuk. So I went through people's back gardens in a taxi to go past checkpoints. But I was searching frontline, couldn't find an active one, and found one by mistake. I was lost in Kirkuk in a cab. We were lost. And strange question, we pull over and we ask a local, and it's true, I got it on video. Do you know where any active front lines are? I mean, it's a strange thing to ask, isn't it? Do you know where the supermarket? Do you know where people are getting shot? And I don't even know why I didn't, but we did. And we found a news crew, Turkmen TV, and they said, as it goes, that's where we're heading for. We're heading to a real active one. There was a suicide attack last night, and if you want to follow us, come. And at that point, it was like, I'm not going to get on a front line without a media card, but they thought we were part of their crew because we were following them as in a, just behind them in a car. And they thought, well, we're producers or film, we're Western, that's what we could be. I've got no armor, no kit. I've got a pair of shorts on and a pair of slides on. So I'm not really up for the gear. We didn't realize what's happening. I mean, I've been front lines before, nothing going on, but we followed it. And we got heavy shit. We got tanks and mortars, and we can hear the banging in the sky. So we finally stumbled on something. And at that point, heading towards it was like 0.5 kilometer on this dirt track. You could hear the explosions going on. And at that point, I got started giggly. I felt excited. And I don't know why, because I don't want to die. I love my life. But it's kind of normal. Soldiers say that as they get to it. So we've gone this 0.5 mile, and it's become more and more active. And then we got to the front line, and it's as dead as a fucking dodo. And I'm pissed because I've got excited. So it's obviously dulled down and gone. So I've got out of the car, and the Turkmen TV guy, who's nuts, said, you're fucking off your head. And he'd given me this vest to put on. And I don't know about vests at that point. He's given me a stab vest. I ain't going to stop a fucking bullet. But I'm thinking I'm as hard as shit because I've got this stab vest. I'm immature with these stuff. So I've put this vest on, and it wouldn't even do up because he's about a size extra small. So I'm walking around this front line with a stab vest on and a pair of shorts, which I did get changed. And anyway, we've gone and met the commander. And this is taking you into and telling you what a front line's like. And he's brought us in. And as I'm standing there, I'm looking down in the middle. And if you're squeamish, it's probably best not listen. Look down, and there's this like football. And I've looked down there, I go, what's that? Oh, and he goes, oh, it's a suicide bomber from ISIS. It's his stomach. So he's got hold of this ball-like shape, and he's kicked it like a football into the undergrowth and kicked a load of dirt on it. So that's reality. That's going from getting close to it to being at it. There's a lot of activity. And I've moved to this rampart, this big wall, which divides from 500-600 meters to ISIS front line. And it's not far with a small set. It's about 1,000 meters, 500. No, my 500-600 meters. And I've gone up to the front line. There's a pit where the snipers are all in there. And I got Powley with them. And they said, do you want to go and see something? And this is how immature and how kind of in the adrenaline have got to you. I had to climb over into Dead Man's Land to see it. And there was a JCB with its bucket up with the remains of the ISIS suicide attacker that blew himself up that night. So I'd met his stomach, and now I met the rest of him, which is I kind of don't even know how I feel about it now. I wasn't sickened by it, but I don't know. It's just a weird experience. I'd gone probably a bit further than I've ever gone before, and there were a few bullets then flying over from the other side. So we've kicked back in. and it's kind of died down. And I went into this kind of sniper pit. I was talking to this guy, nice guy, through a translator, and he's looking probably 8 to 10 hours a day for a sniper rifle. I said, "What are you looking at? You know, what can you see?" And he let me look through it. He said, "There's a White House in the corner of the White House." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Why are you looking in there?" He said, "That's my house. ISIS are in there, and they're with my wife and children." And he'd looked for 2 years at his house that had been taken over by ISIS, and his kids and his family in there. And that tells you the true meaning of war, and what ISIS were doing. And for me, that story has stayed with me more than any other thing I've seen, because that guy was tortured every night. And I asked him, "What would you do? What would you do if you saw your wife and children?" He said, "I don't know. I think he might have killed them to protect them." And anyway, that wasn't the end of it, because it all did go off. There was a car that halfway in no man's land that was fully loaded with explosives, and our guys, the good guys, had to go and blow it up, because otherwise they'd have got back in it at night and blown the crap out the front line. So they went in it, but it got noticed. They got noticed trying to blow it up, ISIS, and it was an almighty great attack. 20, 30 ISIS guys come and attacked our front line, and bullets were firing everywhere. Our lot killed them all. And looking over, and I didn't see it until I looked at my video, looked over, and you could just see a massive death. And that affected me, because, you know, just humans waste a human life. And when the fighting happened, I thought I'd be scared. And I wasn't. I was excited, and you had this kind of funny laughter that makes you sound mad, but you're not. And it's apparently, I've asked some of my guys that are my security now, "Is that normal?" And they said, "Well, yeah, it's frontline kind of adrenaline in your body." And I come back, and I didn't sleep for 2 or 3 nights, because I don't have excitement, fear. So you talk about Nick and that, asking about the fear. It could be fear, it might not be fear, I don't know. And I was editing. The fear came when I got home with my wife, because I was on the screen like we are now, and I was editing my footage. And as I was editing, she could see what I'd done. I didn't think she was there. It was an Easter holiday, and she was over my shoulder. I don't think she spoke to me for weeks, because she'd realized with the kids I got at home that with no protection, what a selfish bastard she thought I was. And she was right. For my want of seeing something, I was willing to put my family at risk and myself at risk. Do I regret it? No. But I haven't been back to front lines without my security and advisors now. Anyway, it's been taken over. Everything's been taken over by media. You know how security goes, and make be security everywhere.
Yeah.
Especially ITV and BBC. So you talk about fear. No, after being through that, it's probably taken the fear away from Syria. I'm sorry it took a long time to get round to it.
It's a great it's the one thing I pride myself on this channel. I like to let the guests talk. This isn't about me, it's about the person who we've got on, and you're a really interesting guest. I want to talk about the book, which is due out. Is it due out at the end of October, the end of this month?
It's done now. You can go there and pre-order it, but you can get your copies by Monday, Tuesday of next week.
Fantastic. Well, it looks great. It's one of those books which I guess you'll pick it up and you'll not want to put it down. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to read it first, just to give a little bit of a push out there to people. But from your perspective, it must be a proud moment to get this one out there, because there's some great stories in there.
It is, because Steve, because if you're from the same background as we are, you're not expected to do this, are you, in life?
No.
You're not expected to be who you are. You're expected to be working down a factory or being a painter and decorator, as I was, and that's it. You're not expected. So I am proud, and my family are proud, because I've changed our course of life, and I think I am proud of it. I'm proud of the many stories through my own book, and not through the press and the media. It's my words. It's not anybody's edited words. I say it as it is, and it's probably not as professional as some people, but they're in my words, and everything in there is true, even to the last trip we did in Ukraine only a few months ago, rescuing a bear. Don't ask me why. I fucking hate that bear. During the war, because I wanted to go back into the Ukraine. Sorry, that was another one without a vest. I did do one. I told a lie. I went back with any media. Some bloke from South Africa was rescuing bear, this circus bear, and the war had gone off, and he was going to get killed, this bear. And I kind of liked it. I thought I'll have a little go at that. the war's going on, and I know war. I feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable with bears. I feel comfortable with bullets, but not bears. And we went into during the conflict, and there was a bomb went off close to the bear, and we had to kind of move pretty quickly. So we loaded up a van full of gear, because people are my things I told you I don't really care about. I do care about animals. That makes me sound heartless, but I care about humans more. So I loaded up the car, and I had my own body armor. And we went over to the Ukraine, and we found this bear in a farm. We put it to sleep, and we had there could have been air attacks at any time. We're in a shit place, but we were rescuing a bear, and it took your mind off it a little bit. I think the biggest risk of that, the bear came back to life after we were carrying it out and had to give it another injection.
So it's like a bear with a sore head.
He was a bear with a sore head, and we were taking this bear into this kind of sanctuary in Brasov in Romania. So I spent, I think it was 3 nights in the back of a tranny in a crate with a pissy bear, because we forgot the bears piss, don't they? You can't take them out the side of the road for a piss. They just pissed on our kit, pissed and stunk. But we come out of Ukraine in and out, and brought this bear to the sanctuary. And it was quite emotional, actually, seeing him be released and not in circuses. And he does his bearly things. And I felt quite proud of myself until a month later, and the bear died. And I thought, I didn't know whether to feel the bear let me down a little bit by dying after spending all the time in Ukraine. And I felt sorry for the bear then. He'd spent all this time with a circus, and he lived longer in a circus than he did in the bear sanctuary. So I don't know what I feel. I don't like bears though, Steve. They stink and they're scary. I wish he'd lived. I wish he lived a little bit longer, but he'd enough stink, and I can still smell bear piss now.
We started this podcast with piss. We're finishing with piss. So it's
your fault. It's your fault for dragging the piss out of me.
It is, mate. It is. I mean, it's great to see your story being put out there as well, and you've led an interesting life. Is there anybody that you would like to interview? I mean, you've been alongside Piers Morgan. Would you like to grill that guy?
Oh, Piers Morgan. He's a strange guy. I think he's more interested in his own hype. So uncensored. That's another level of balls. But yeah, he was all right. I mean, basically, he doesn't really, like me and you having a chat, and we could become mates. I think he likes media people. I'm going and arranging, and you're the first person to Zelensky. It's going to happen.
Oh, brilliant, mate. I mean, he's a legend, isn't he?
A boy from a council house in Aldershot will be interviewing Zelensky and taking people with him. It's going to happen. Assad has also agreed to an interview. So President Assad from Syria. So they're going to be up and coming. And also I'll turn this around and interview you, because I've got so much to ask you. Your life is so exciting. So I think we're going to have to do a pub sometime.
I'm more than happy to do that, mate. And I mean, as I say, it's a big thanks to Nick and Katie for introducing us. They've introduced me to so many great people, and I think because I'm not as constant as some of the other podcasters, and I do it online. It's probably not as professional as others, but I just enjoy doing it and enjoy listening to people's stories. It is primarily a football channel that I run, and as you know, I support Newcastle. Cool. When you were sitting in the green room, you were looking at Newcastle United's legends. But you support Aldershot.
I do. I put a bit of money in there as well. I match sponsor, and I've got a board up there for my building company. And I love Aldershot. We are absolutely awful. We've gone from being a semi-big club to in the national conference. We struggle. We've got no money. So if any of your friends out there, because you helped the Newcastle sale, I believe, want to put any money into a lovely little club, not Gateshead, because they went out of business. They're up near you, aren't they?
I think they're in the conference. And now are they in the same league as you?
They're back with us now. Thanks to Gateshead going out of business, they kept us in the league, because they went out of business and dropped down, didn't they? Or they lost money, or they didn't go out of business. I think they got fined and they got kicked out of the league. And because they got kicked out of the league, Aldershot stayed up, because you only got kicked out of the league, we'd have gone down. But the shots have been great, and with passion. I know you're with a big club, and we're not. I think true supporters go there every week, win or lose. I don't ever shout for the manager to be out, and I don't shout for the chairman to be out. My thoughts about him, I don't keep open, because I always believe as a football fan, you have to support what you've given. And my players, I don't boo off, and they've been booed off. And I don't think you should boo a player off. There's no player that goes out there, I don't think, especially in lower league, will perform poorly. I think they might be playing in a standard above themselves, but I don't think that case. I'm a big supporter. I've been there for 50 years, 50 years of tears, 50 years of sadness, but I love my club.
That's great. And Gateshead, just out of interest, played Aldershot on the 3rd of December at the Gateshead International Stadium, and then they travelled to Aldershot on the 25th of March next year.
I'll be there. I'll be there on the 25th of March. Not too sure coming all the way up to Geordie Land for the away game. I'm going this weekend. We're playing we're playing Chelmsford in the FA Cup 4th round qualifier. So I'm travelling up to there, because you thought I was an East Ender anyway, and I'm not, but I sound it, don't I?
Yeah, you've got that twang, but when you're not from down there, it's difficult to exactly pinpoint it. It's a bit like you trying to pinpoint a Geordie, a Mackham, or a Smoggy. You know what I mean? You would be like,
accuse you of being a Manc.
Or Scottish. No, you didn't say it. Geordies are often referred to as Scottish people with their head kicked in. So
I like that. But I think Scotland's had a true awakening of where they are in football, haven't they, over the last couple of weeks? I think last night. Yeah, they want to be in Premier team. I don't think so. I think they could. We might let them in the conference, Rangers.
Well, they can play with Sunderland for me. I don't mind that. Okay, a last plug for this. Trip Hazard by Andrew Drury. The links for Andrew's social media and anything else he wants to put out there will be below. So please give him a follow, give him a click, and keep an eye on his stuff, because he's got, as he's already said, that the Zelensky thing and the Assad interview are going to be two big things coming very, very soon. So we will keep interested in that, and it'll be great to get you on the News of the World panel, because we always look at a satirical look at the news. So I will drop you an email and invite you.
I'm a big news follower. And I'll tell you what I'll do, because I've enjoyed this interview and I've had loads of people ask me. Zelensky will be on Good Morning Britain when I'll be taking them. I'll give you the first shout on the Zelensky stuff before I put anything out. Because I'm a people person. I like people. And Zelensky will have a lot to say. And
I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that. Let's hook up when I get back.
Great stuff, mate. Well, listen, good luck with the book. Best of luck with the sales, and make sure that you make your signature easy when you're signing those books. It gets a bit painful, mate. I'm going to play out with the ads. Thank you very much for taking the time. Mate. Take care, mate. Bye-bye.
Cheers, mate. Bye.
A big thanks to our sponsors, Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay as you go waste collection. Thanks to Darren Baldwin Funerals, based on Old Durham Road in Gateshead. Their phone number is 0191 478 2730. You can email Darren at darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk or go to the website darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Thanks to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD, hemp and cannabinoid specialists based on Nunn Street. The GOHD.com is their website. And thanks again to 3 Property Investments, who specialise in sourcing investment properties for their clients who are looking to invest in the North East. They offer a full in-house service from sourcing the deals to managing the properties for you. They've done over 100 plus deals in the past 12 months for clients all over the UK. Give them a follow on Instagram, matty.patter_northeast property and phil.reed_northeast property, or email phil@3property.co.uk if you're interested in getting a good property deal. Thanks to the lads at Mr. Vicky's Handmade in Cumbria. These are hot sauces, and you can find them at mrvickys.co.uk or place an order by ringing 01768 210 102. Thanks also to the lads at Blowhole Brewery, a fine amount of ales available from their website, www.blowholebrewery.co.uk. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the video technology. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, nufcmatters.com. If you want to subscribe, hit the badge in the corner, and you can subscribe for free. Still do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up to like the video and click share to share to your social media. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and the rest. And if you want to become a member, click join underneath this video, or you can put your smartphone over the QR code. It will take you to the membership section of the website. If you choose to go that way, then you will get a pen, a cup, a scarf, and a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw for a one-off payment of £25. We also give you something for free. If you want a car window sticker, email john@nufcmatters.com and he will send you one if you are a subscriber. We also help the food bank on here. NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk is the matchday bucket. If you go there, you can make a virtual donation at any time of the year. And don't forget, Peter Beardsley Soccer School, October half term, Monday the 24th to Friday the 28th of October. You can book now, peterbeardsley.soccerschool.com. Peter's also running Monday night training on the 26th of October. Again, the same website. And if you want to meet Peter Beardsley, well, you've got 3 chances. Newcastle Legends game, Friday, October the 14th. The Peter Beardsley talk-in is taking place after the game. Tickets for this are available from nufcmatters.com. Adult admission is £5, junior admission is £2. The talk-in is adults only, and that is a £10. And the events are all taking place at the Fox Hunters Pavilion in North Shields. We've got Peter Beardsley available, tickets available for the St Dom's Catholic Club show. You need to go straight to their website and you just buy your tickets there. And for this one at the Irish Centre, tickets are available now on nufcmatters.com. Don't forget, Supermax at the Dog and Parrot, every pre-match and every post-match, every home game. And John Gibson and John Anderson are at Pumphrey's pre-match only. If you did like our true crime stuff, it has all migrated to the True Crime channel. So get yourself across there on YouTube and subscribe today.